it's Meg, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my favourite debut novels. I have been accumulating a list for a while of some debut novels, and from reading some of these books I have read more books by these authors, or they have become some of my favourite authors, and I have a really lovely selection. It's always amazing to read a author's debut and then read more of their books afterwards and see how they grow and progress as a writer, and to also get invested in their stories. And I think it is just so wonderful and obviously amazing to celebrate and spread the love for all of their debut novels. I have 7 books to talk to you guys about today, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The first debut novel that I have is The Protex by Elizabeth Azevedo. I read this a couple of months ago after putting it off for so long, and it was 100% worth the wait because I absolutely loved it. This is a book that is written in verse, and I have never read a book that has been written in verse before, and I really enjoyed it as I am a lover of poetry. I loved the language, I loved reading it and seeing how you can fit like a novel kind of story into the form of verse. I found that very interesting, and I feel like Elizabeth did a really good job. I love the characters in this, and it made me feel so many emotions, which obviously is a good thing. If a book kind of makes you feel something, it made me happy, it made me sad, it made me angry, it made me feel joy, it made me feel everything, and I feel like that is what a good book does, and I feel like this really set the bar for Elizabeth's work, and I cannot wait to read her second book, With the Fire on High, which I know is out. I haven't got to it yet, but I am definitely going to read it once the paperback comes out. So I cannot wait to read her second novel, and she's definitely going to become one of my new favourite authors. The next book that I have is Looking for Alaska by John Green. I'm sure many of you guys have heard of John Green. He's a very popular YA author, and his books have mixed opinions across BookTube, across the book community in general, and like quite a few people, some of his books I love, some I don't. And this was the second book of his that I've read. I read The Fault in Our Stars was the first book I read, I believe, of his. And I did really enjoy this. It was quite a long time ago since I read it, I must admit, but it was the first book that I kind of read like this before, I guess. And I just remember really enjoying the story and the characters and everything about it. And I do love John Green's writing. I do love the very philosophical characters. I know some people don't like that, but personally I do, because there are some teenagers in the world who are like that. Like, not every teenager is kind of dumb and bratty and temperamental and all that sort of thing. So I do remember really enjoying it, even though I did kind of guess the plot twist, but you know, there you go. I just remember really enjoying it, and I probably should reread it because it's been like a good 5 years maybe since I last read it. 4 or 5 years, so I'm definitely in need of a reread. Next up we have a debut from one of my favourite authors, and that is When God Was a Rabbit by Sarah Winman. I'm sure you guys know by now that Sarah is one of my favourite authors, and I have read all of her books, or nearly all of her books. I am currently reading Tin Man when I'm filming this video, and I actually read When God Was a Rabbit second. I read her second book, A Year of Marvellous Ways, first. That absolutely blew me away, and I really enjoyed God Was a Rabbit. It's not my favourite book of Sarah's. I feel like I would have loved this much more if I had read it first instead of reading Marvellous Ways first. But I love everything about Sarah's books. I love the writing, I love the characters, I love the story and how beautiful it is, and I just love everything about it. This is an absolutely wonderful book with such a wonderful story, and it is kind of like a magical realism, I guess. It has that little bit of magic that flows throughout the book, which I absolutely love. So if you are looking for beautiful, wonderful writing, definitely pick this book up. And I feel like this was like a massive hit when it first came out. I think it sold was it 500,000 copies? I don't know. It sold quite a lot, put it that way. And I can see why everyone has loved Sarah's work so much. She's just absolutely wonderful, and I will always read everything that she writes. Next up, I have Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I was quite late to the party when it came to reading this book. I only read it last year because the film came out, and I obviously had to read the book first before I went to go and see the film. And luckily I love the book and I love the film and just the story in general. I have now read the majority of Becky Albertalli's books. I've read all of the books that are solely written by her. Upside of Rome Requited is definitely my favourite, and Simon is definitely a very, very close second. I love these books. Becky Albertalli's writing is so easy to read. I feel like her stories are very relatable for a lot of people. I feel like they also have a very important messages throughout them, and they're just such lovely, heartwarming, wonderful stories with also a very important messages. So I feel like this was such a great debut for Becky Albertalli. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. And I will always enjoy reading her books. I think they are just great, easy reads. And if you are looking for that sort of book, then I would definitely recommend this book or any of Becky Albertalli's other books. Next up, we have quite an old favourite that I am 100% in need of a reread for, and that is The Art of Being Normal. I believe this is her debut novel. She has written a couple of books after this. I don't think she's done any books before this, as far as I know. If I get this wrong, I am sorry. This book is basically about a trans boy named David, and this was the first book, I believe, that I read about a trans main character, and I found that really interesting. I read this about 3 years ago, and I didn't know much about the trans community then, so it was a very interesting and eye-opening read. I have heard loads of good things from other people who have read this book and how much they love it, and I really, really enjoyed it from what I can remember. It's a great story. I love the writing. It was easy to follow, and it also had a very important message, and I do feel like this is a book that a lot of people can also relate to. So I am definitely in need of a reread, but I feel like this is such a great book and such a great debut. If it is actually a debut, I hope it is. And I haven't read any more of Sarah's books yet. Most of her newer releases I haven't quite captured my attention. They're not ones that I'm super interested in reading, but I still definitely keep an eye out for her books, because I feel after reading this wonderful, wonderful book, I definitely keep on following her and seeing her new novels, and maybe I will pick up another book of hers in the future. You will never know. Next up, I have a book that I feel like a lot of people love, and for good reason, and that is The Astonishing Colour of After by Emily X. Sapien. This book was pretty popular last year when it came out. I feel like it wasn't like super ridiculously hyped, but it was pretty popular and very, very well loved by so many people. And this is an absolutely beautiful book. I think for a debut, the writing is absolutely stunning. I love the storyline. It is a bit slow, which I feel like some people may find, but personally I do not mind that. This is about a girl named Lee, and her mother commits suicide, and then she is convinced that her mother has been turned into a bird, so she travels to Taiwan to meet her maternal grandparents to try and find her mother. And this is such a beautiful story. It is emotional, it is sad, it is wonderful and heartwarming, and I love everything about it. I feel like it is such a wonderful book for a debut, and to get so much love and praise that it has got, which I think is wonderful. Again, with quite a couple of these other books, it has such beautiful writing. I feel like it is very well written, even though my version of well written may not be the same to other people. And I would definitely like to reread this very soon, because I think it deserves it, and I need to annotate it properly, because your girl didn't know how to annotate properly when I read this last year. So I definitely need to do that. But definitely out of some of these books, I would 100% recommend this book, and I will definitely pick up Emily's future books, because this was such a wonderful, wonderful debut, and I cannot wait to see what she comes up with next. And last but by certainly no means least is one of my favourite books of all time, and that is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Again, this was a book that I was quite late to the party with, as I only read it at the beginning of this year. But oh my god, it was so worth it, and it is officially one of my top 5 books of all time. I absolutely adore it to pieces. There is so much I could say about this book, and every time I talk about it I feel like I can never put into words how much I truly love it and why I love it so much. This is basically about loneliness. It's about a girl named Eleanor Oliphant, and she is very lonely. She lives a very mundane, repetitive life. She doesn't have any friends. She doesn't have a social life. She feels like she's very disliked in her workplace, and she just does the same thing over and over again every week. And it's about loneliness is one of the main topics of this book, and also about Eleanor and experiencing new things and learning about her past and learning to grow and blossom into a better, more confident and stronger person. I thought for a debut this was just absolutely phenomenal. I love the storyline, I love the writing. I think this book is so clever, and I love the way that it handles the topic of loneliness and mental health and all these other sorts of topics. And I love the characters. I love Eleanor. I think she's absolutely hilarious. She isn't the most likeable character at the start, but you grow to love her, and I love how there are little breadcrumbs spread throughout the book, and just everything about it I absolutely adore. Like I said, I never feel like I can do it justice when I try to talk about it and what it's about and how much I love it, because I feel like you just have to go and read it for yourself. I will definitely be reading more of Gail Honeyman's books in the future. I believe she has a novel coming out next year. There has been no title released or anything like that, or book cover, but there is something on Goodreads about her releasing a new book next year, so hopefully she is. And when it comes out I cannot wait to read it. So there you have it. Those are all of my favourite debut novels that I have read so far. There are so many wonderful books on this list, and so many have become all-time favourites that I love so dearly. Let me know in the comments down below your favourite debut novel. Maybe it is one that I've mentioned or one that you have read that I haven't, and I would love to know, so then I can add that to my TBR list and we can all discuss some of our favourite debut novels. If you like this video then please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more bookish videos from me then make sure you hit that subscribe button and little bell icon so you will be noted every time I post a new video. As always, I will leave the links to my social media along with the links to my blog and my Goodreads in the description down below for you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!